Hey, you guys, come on in here. Happy Tuesday. I hope that you are doing well. Happy Thanksgiving week. Come on in here. We have such a yummy topic tonight. And I have a beautiful guest here with me tonight. So I'm going to give you guys, you ladies and gents, a second to pop in here before I introduce my lovely guest. Going to do a little housekeeping. We are talking about something really exciting, at least for me, Crystal. I don't know about for you, but yeah, right?
I am so excited about this topic because, people lose sight of the whole goal at hand with being in love and they lose hope in it. So I just want to give back the hope, give back the power, give back the strength, give back the courage. So I'm excited.
Yes, yes. We want y'all to have all that because we have been on the side of trauma and we get to now celebrate the side of love. So y'all come on in here. Please make sure that you like and share. Remember that stars are available if you guys want to give us some stars. We love them as they help us to continue the work that we do. So go ahead on in. Um, you have the opportunity to do that. Please say hey when you pop on in here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to know where you are at around the world. So come on in.
Yes, come on in the room. We're excited to engage with you guys.
Yes. Hey, Karen, you're always around. I love to have you as a guest. Okay, so hey, Crystal, I am joined today by Crystal Timberlake. She is a founder of Boundaries Over Brokenness LLC. She is an author. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is a survivor. And so I'm excited to have her join. Hey, from Texas. Hey, Amy. I am excited to have her join me tonight. I'm having a little housekeeping issue, so give me 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
So tonight we get the opportunity to talk to you guys about love after trauma abuse. And I told Crystal, I said, Crystal, did you see that post that we shared? And when we talked about love after trauma abuse, they were like, oh no, not me. I could never. I'm not interested. What did you say? Tell them what you said when I told you about that.
I said that is all too common. That is the first thing that we do as a defense mechanism. We just tell ourselves that we're going to shut ourselves off from love, from all of the things that have to do with the relationships and all of that, because it's the way we protect ourselves from not being hurt again. But we do that because we are not confident in identifying the red flags. We do that because we are afraid to attract the same kind of person over and over again. So it's just easier to stay away than it is to kind of deal with it. And I am so excited to jump into the meat and potatoes of this conversation because I want to help you guys not have that kind of issue when it comes to dating after trauma and abuse, because I want you to know that I am a living witness that there is hope and there is love after trauma and abuse. So stay with us. You will learn a lot.
Yay, Nicole, I'm glad this is perfect timing for you. You guys will. The thing about it is we're going to share our stories, our personal love after stories as we intertwine throughout the night. But I want to just say to those of you, happy Thanksgiving. Hey, from New York, I want you guys to know, you ladies and gentlemen, to know that life and love after abuse does exist. These smiles you see on our faces, we did not create these by ourselves, just like out of blue air. We did the work. And we gave ourselves a chance at love again. So for all, we respect and understand the desire to not want to be in love again, to not have a desire to pursue a relationship for many different reasons. You just don't feel like it out of fear, out of apprehension. But we just want to encourage you to know that it's an option for you if you want it. And we want to just kind of work through some of the things that may be challenging you about heading that way. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you put in the comments, if you want, are you dating? Are you thinking about dating? Are you remarried? So oftentimes that people don't want to date after abuse, Crystal, because like, am I the problem? Am I the reason that I attracted this abuse in the first place? So let's talk about that.
Yes, I feel like the first thing we try to do is rationalize what happened to us. And a part of that rationalization is questioning whether or not you were the problem. And a lot of times when you're in these abusive situations, you're being manipulated and brainwashed into believing that you truly are indeed the problem, but it's really a deflection of what that abuser really is doing to you, and is trying to twist it around and make you think that you're the issue, but you're really not. So I just want to, reiterate that you guys can find love and you guys are not the problem. Is there work that needs to be done? Yes, there will be some healing that needs to happen. There'll be some things that you need to undo, because what happens is we take in all of this toxicity and then we ourselves become toxic as well. So we need to detox ourselves, if you will, from the toxic energy that you've been consuming over the last however long you were in that relationship, so that you can find that happy place again where you are healthy enough to enter into that new relationship. So that's really.
I love how you call that a detox, because it literally is, because you have been, poisoned with so much of their lies,
Mhm.
and the things that they say to you, and then you just get so blinded and you're like, well, who am I? What do I like? I love Deronda is talking about how 2 years after she met the love of her life, she's being treated the way that she never thought she could. And I really love stories like that, because the truth is we're living witnesses of what that looks like. And so let's talk about detoxing after an abusive relationship. It's really, really important to recognize that you literally do have to go through a detox. I remember when I looked in the mirror, all I
Mhm.
saw was the thing that he had said about me. In my
Yes.
head, all I could hear were the things that he said about me. And I had to detox myself and allow all of that to come out of my system and
Mhm.
counteract the lies of what he told me with the truth of who I really was.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I do a lot of work with the people that I are in my group and the people that I coach to help them change those beliefs. Those beliefs we call limiting beliefs. So they limit you from seeing and being who you truly are. So what you have to do in order to undo those beliefs is to really start telling yourselves the new beliefs. So the first thing I always have people do is to write out what they want. What is your ultimate goal? And then number two, what do you truly believe about yourself? I know what you've heard and what you may subconsciously think because of what you heard, but what do you believe about yourself? Let's write that out. And those are things that you need to revisit and recite daily. So I am beautiful. I am worthy of love. I am strong. I am enough. These statements of empowerment are so important for us to continue to recite daily, because that is how we undo those abusive comments that may be circling our brain and consuming us, which also prevents us from ever loving ourselves as well as being able to receive love from someone else. So it's so important that we write out our new beliefs and recite them daily. One thing that I like to tell people all the time is that it takes 21 days to create a new habit, but it takes 90 days to create a new behavior, but it actually takes 256 days to automate that new behavior. So that is almost a year, you guys, that it takes for you to really start believing and automatically thinking of these new beliefs that you are reciting to yourself daily. So you can't just do it for 7 days. You can't just do it for a month. You have to continuously do it, because what you're doing is you're reprogramming your mind, you're reprogramming your beliefs so that you can open yourself up to life and love and relationships.
I love that. And I love how you talk about write the beliefs that you believe about yourself, not what your family or parents raise you to think about yourself, or what the abuser has said about you. What do you say about you? And understand that may be three different things. What they said about you, what you were raised believing about yourself, and then what you think about yourself. It's very
Mhm.
different. And they may have boxed you into someone as a person growing up. Your abuser had just torn you down so low.
Mhm.
And then you're like, so this list has to be your list. What you truly deep inside think about yourself. One thing that I did was I always had sticky notes all over the house. I have sticky notes here. I have sticky notes everywhere. When I was single, and I would have sticky notes of who I am. I didn't believe a word of it, Crystal, but I
Mhm.
continued to tell it to myself over and over again. And we laugh because we were talking about, some people just don't feel worthy. And I wish
Mhm.
I absolutely feel worthy. But Crystal,
Mhm.
we didn't start out like that.
No, we did not. No, we did not. We were
And
definitely in the same broken place that you may be feeling and experiencing right now. But like I
yes,
mentioned in the beginning, is we have to be conscious and dedicated to doing the work so that we can heal, because it will take work. Like I said, you can't do it for 7 days and think that you're going to
no.
miraculously be better, because it didn't take 7 days to get you to where you are. So it's not going to take you 7 days to get out of it. So I want you guys to be patient in the journey, but also know that there is hope on the other side. You're not putting in all of this work in vain. You really will
That's
reap the
good.
benefits of what you are doing because you're pouring into yourself. And as you do that, you start to rebuild yourself up and you get that self-worth, you get that self-love, that self-trust, all of those things that are going to be necessities for you as you go forward in life. So I want you guys to
I
just
love that.
Mhm.
Because the truth is, you're filling your own cup. And if it doesn't end in a relationship, it still ends in the loving relationship that you have with yourself. That
Yeah.
self love, that self trust. And it's like you just love yourself a whole lot. You just
Yes.
really
Nobody tell you
learn to.
nothing.
Nobody. Okay. And it's so funny because my sisters are laughing at me like, gosh, Lisa, as I started through my journey of healing, like, we can't tell you nothing. Absolutely not anymore. Because
Mhm.
I created this space where I decided no one was ever going to put me in a box again. I was going to decide what I liked and how I felt. So
Mhm.
I wanted to just really say something real quick because I believe there was a gentleman on that mentioned that they're in a relationship with someone who has endured abuse, and I just to address that real quick. I'm kind of fast forwarding, but if they're not going to be on the whole time, I just wanted to say it's important that if you are dating someone and you decide you do want to get to a level of seriousness, that you do share that with them. I think, and the person that you're dating has to be willing to understand the journey that you went through. And I love what they said. They're gentle. They're in it for the long haul. They're not giving up on their partner. They're willing
Mhm.
to walk through the journey with them to self-love,
Mhm.
self-actualization. And I would just partners to like hang in there, and I even tell my husband today, hang in there, honey. I'm a work in progress. I've experienced trauma. I've
Yeah.
experienced severe abuse. And so take my hand and just walk this journey with me. So whoever
Yes.
that is, hang in there, stick with your partner. Know that what they experienced, their body remembers, their mind remembers. And so just hang in there with them and love them. So
Yes.
anyway, I didn't mean to ramble, but that was for you, whoever, I don't remember your name, but
No, and I actually want to add to that too, to whoever you are. It is so important that you guys get together and make sure that she feels comfortable being vulnerable in that space because a lot of this journey requires communication and a lot of it. And some of the things that is endured during that abusive or traumatic phase of life, they're really like etched into our makeup and who we are and how we react to different things. But your partner needs to be okay with communicating with you, but it is up to you as the other partner in the relationship to make that space safe. So
that's
make it so
good.
that that person feels good about opening up about those deepest, darkest things that trigger us because it happens just like that. Like we have no control over it. But it can be overcame and it doesn't have to be a lasting thing that can go on all day. It can be just a moment, but
That's good.
it really depends on how safe that person feels with you in that
Yeah.
relationship to be able to share and be vulnerable so that they can talk you through what they need from you in that moment too.
That's really good. Create that safe space and be that support for them. And understand that
Mhm.
that may take time. They may not tell you right away. They need to be able
Mhm.
to know and trust that you are in it for the long haul,
Yes.
and that you're going to be there no matter what it is that they've experienced or the
Mhm.
traumas that they still feel, that you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. Okay, sorry about that. I had to. She wanted to share. We wanted to touch on that. So, Crystal, I know. So, tell us a little bit about your personal story. How did you get to the point where you decided love after abuse was something that you wanted?
Absolutely. So my personal story, actually, the trauma. So it's really trauma and abuse, and I put an emphasis on trauma and abuse because my story started with trauma in the childhood. So I was raised with a mom who was schizophrenic. So we just had a chaotic life. We never stayed anywhere for long enough to even call it home. We stayed in shelters. We stayed outside in the park. We've stayed all of these places. And then I was sexually abused by a family member. I was raped as a teenager. I had daddy issues with my father, who I really desired to have in my life, but the relationship just wasn't, it never flourished the way that I wanted it to. And there was trauma there as well. And then I like to call this the icing on the cake, even though we think of icing as a good thing, but it was really the hard stop for me, which was my abusive relationship. That really was the turning point for me where I realized that my life was really a downhill spiral And I wasn't happy. I was just surviving. I was tired of surviving. That's all I knew since I was 5 years old, was just getting through the day or getting through the month. And I was so sick and tired of it. And when I almost lost my life for the, I don't even know what time in that relationship, I finally just had enough. Enough was enough. And I want to encourage people by telling them and being honest about this. I had been telling this particular partner for a while that I was going to leave if he didn't start respecting me or if he didn't start treating me better, and I had been saying it over and over again for almost a year. Like a year, I was saying this. And I like to tell people that in hindsight, looking back on the time now in reflection, I realized that what I was doing was trying to build myself up. Because again, when we are in these traumatic situations, these abusive relationships, we don't trust ourselves. We don't really love ourselves. And though we're putting this out in the atmosphere, I really was trying to build the courage within myself. So I was saying it out loud, even when I wasn't quite sure I was ready to detach myself from him. So that's kind of how this all started. And that was 10 years ago. And then when I left him, I moved to Minnesota, said I was going to get my life together. And I got back together with my now husband. He was a boyfriend of mine back in high school. And, things were great, right? But I realized that I had so much baggage. I was no longer the girl he dated in high school. That was like out of the window. And he was trying to rekindle and rebuild kind of like where we left off. And he was amazing, except I was broken. I was toxic. I didn't know how to communicate. I was hurting inside. And I blamed him. I compared him to my ex all the time. There was just these things that constantly kept coming up until I decided that I was going to go to therapy. And when I started going to therapy, I realized that I learned new communication tactics. I learned a lot of things about myself. I learned how a lot of the trauma in my childhood, which at the time I didn't even consider trauma. Shoot, at the time I didn't even consider my abusive relationship an abusive relationship, and I know a lot of you guys can relate to that. But just going through the therapy helped reveal some of those things and helped me call a spade, because a lot of times we call it other things to make it feel a little less bad to ourselves. But once you start to acknowledge things for what they are, that's when the true healing starts to happen. So that's kind of where this all got started. In 2016, I decided that I was going to register my business, Boundaries Over Brokenness. And from there, I just kind of was dabbling a little bit. I was still working full time. I didn't really give it my all. It was a dream and a hope, but not something that I was really ready to dive out there and do until 2019. Actually, I was like, okay, God, I feel you pulling at it. Like, I can't run from that calling any longer. Just tell me what to do. And literally, he was like, I told you to write the book. Like, if you guys have a
and you wrote the book.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you, guys.
Hey,
So,
hey. So let me ask you, when did you
Mhm.
get married? How long ago? How long have you been married? So you guys got married.
Yes, we've been married for 8 years now. So it's amazing.
And you had children?
Yes, we have one child. He's 5. He's a
Okay.
boy.
So how was
And
it that you were able to give yourself the opportunity to trust again? How did you get there to trust him again? Even though you were high school, you knew him. You weren't the same person. You were broken.
yep.
So
You
how
know
did you
what?
give yourself the?
Because I was healing and married at the same time, it was one of the toughest things that I ever did in my life. And in fact, I almost sabotaged my marriage several times because I didn't trust him. And because I had been abused at the hand of men on several different occasions in my life, I had really become really hardened to men. Like, for one, I was afraid of them. So because I was afraid of them, I didn't trust them. I just, thought that they can do anything at any time. So I didn't trust them. I didn't like that. It made me feel uneasy. And because my husband was my husband, did not make that any different. I still did not trust him. I did not allow him to be the man that he was called to be as my husband because I was too busy still living my life as a survivor. And I put that in quotations because I mentioned earlier that I was just purely surviving and it was exhausting. And so what I had to do is I had to go to therapy for one. For two, I had to work on myself because as I mentioned, when it comes to trusting other people, it's not about what that person does to you, says to you, or any of the sorts. It's truly about a me thing. It's about what you trust and what you know that you know that you know about yourself. So I had to become confident in one, identifying the red flags and being able to pick them apart from the good things. I also had to set boundaries because, again, when we don't have boundaries, we lack direction, we lack structure, we lack all of these things that we need in order to navigate relationships. So once I
I
learned
think
how to
you
do that,
I
that's
think
how
you
I
said
was.
it really good. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think you said it really good where we have to know ourselves because it's really not
Yep.
about that other person. That other person could be Santa Claus. If we say or do something that doesn't sit well with this and with myself, with what I
Mhm.
know to be true about myself, my
Yeah.
personal goals, my personal boundaries, then it's not good. Whether it's Santa Claus or, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you don't trust,
Right.
it's about you. You have to build that self trust within yourself. And like you
Mhm.
said, build boundaries where and acknowledge the red flags. What I like to say is, especially for women, God has
Mhm.
given this amazing gift of having a gut feeling. We just know. We just know some things. I don't care
Mhm.
what men say. It's a fact. We just know some things. And so we need to utilize it. We need to, even as mothers, we know
Mhm.
some things. So it's important that we follow the gut feeling that we feel, whether about a person or a situation,
Mhm.
a place that we walk into. It's very important that we acknowledge what it is. And so let's talk about some of those red flags. Well, first of all, let's go back because you made a good point. You said you were healing while married, which is rough. It's rough because
Yes.
let's just say it's rough. And I think you continue to heal because 10 years later, I heal, still healing every day. But
Mhm.
getting into a relationship and getting married, and healing at the same time, like you said, you almost sabotage your marriage as a result of it.
Mhm. Yes,
So I think
absolutely.
no, go, you froze.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying absolutely. I definitely was doing it at the same time and it was one of the toughest things that I ever did. But yeah, the first thing I needed to do was acknowledge that I was self-sabotaging. And a lot of times
Yeah.
we don't want
Yeah.
to acknowledge that we are the ones in the wrong, okay? I
Mhm.
also believe that that ties back to a lot of the reason why people say that they just don't want to date because they're afraid to be the ones to ruin it. So I had to acknowledge that
Yeah,
I was
that's good.
self-sabotaging,
That's
and then I
good.
needed to identify the root causes, which is why I knew I needed to be in therapy. Because, like I said, I never considered all that I had been through as terrible. I just thought it was life, but it is
Mhm.
life, but it's not a normal life. It's not a healthy life. So I had to
No. And
identify
there's
those causes.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
there's when you're in a healthy relationship, you have disagreements and arguments and things that happen, but that's the healthy part of a relationship. If you haven't experienced that, you may think relationship after relationship, throwing things, arguments, fish through walls is normal, and it's so not. It's like the exact opposite of that. But I think one of the key things that you said is revealing what actually hurts us, saying it out
Mhm.
loud, writing it down, and being honest with ourselves. Maybe sometimes for the first time, because call it
Mhm.
what it is. Call a spade a spade. I'm hurt because of this. This happened to me, and I think it's very important once we acknowledge and recognize the feelings, the situations for what they
Mhm.
are. We put a name to it. Now we're
Yeah.
able to acknowledge it and start to heal. What happens is, I read this quote one time. It said, "I sat with my anger long enough to realize that it was pain, that it was hurt. I was lashing out in anger, but it was actually pain and it was actually hurt." And I think we rob ourselves of opportunities in life because we walk around angry instead of acknowledging the fact that we're actually hurt.
Absolutely. I totally agree on that. I actually did a live earlier a few months ago in the summertime about how a lot of times we do a lot of things and it's driven out of anger, right? Or pain or hurt. But what happens when you get to a point when you don't want to be angry anymore, right? So
Yeah,
you've built up
yeah,
all of this momentum doing things out of anger, which was me. Okay. And then I got to a point where I just was like, okay, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm tired of being angry all the time, right? And one of the things that you have to do is keep up the same momentum, but do it with a positive energy source. And a lot of times, most people cannot shift that gear from being driven out of anger to being driven out of positivity. I have said this a lot because it's true. There is some people in the world who have been in chaos for so long, and anger is behind that chaos, that they do not know how to live or thrive outside of it. They get so uncomfortable that they then start to break down other things so that they can get back that feeling of being comfortable in the chaos. And I've talked to a lot of people about that, and I try to, get them through that, because that's a huge part of your healing. It's being able to
Yeah.
let go of those things that are not serving you, and being comfortable with being at peace, because really that's what it is. I mean, we're not really doing what's good for ourselves when we're so much in that chaos. So
But
that's
Crystal, I think too, it's recognizing that it's chaos that we were living in. And I think that goes back to the trauma bond, because I can even remember for myself, I would reread the text messages where he called. He cursed me just flat out. I was the most disgusting, terrible person. But in my head, that makes sense. That it made sense. It made sense that when I came home, there was pain and there was turmoil, because that's what I was used to living in. Anything outside of that didn't seem normal. And so we have to get ourselves to a space that's healthy and realize learn what's healthy. Is this normal? Is this healthy? Is this unhealthy? It's important that we take the time to learn what that is. And like we always say, you got to do the work. I remember, so like part of my journey of deciding to date again, I met my ex-husband when I was 19 years old. We got married when I was 23. It was my first everything. I thought this was it for me for the rest of my life. And so when we got divorced, I was like, gosh, I don't know, almost 30. And I thought, well, I wanted 4 kids. Like I wanted to like get married again. I wanted it, but I didn't even know what that would look like. I can't say that I was not that person who's like, I will never get married again. No. That's not me. I knew that I wanted to get married again. I just didn't know what that would look like. But what I did start to do is I went to a domestic violence counseling group. I started working on myself. I started setting boundaries for myself. I remember my little sister would say, oh, well, we need to get you a billboard that said Lisa said no, because I started to say no to things that no longer served me. A lot of times we as victims have been people pleasers like almost all of our lives. So we say yes to things that make us uncomfortable, yes to go in places we don't want to go. And I had just decided I'm not doing that anymore. My answer is no, I'm not watching your kids. No, I'm not coming over. It felt good. I started to empower myself by saying no and not worrying about what their reaction was. And so for me, that was really big on setting boundaries. And so I started dating again. Like I knew I wanted to date again, but I had also told myself that I wasn't ever going to let someone make me feel that way again, ever. And so that was my maybe gauge, or that was my barometer for if I was going to even continue to talk to you. If it looked like you would yell at me, if you called me out my name, if you were disrespectful to people, these are all the flags I was looking for, because I just knew that I couldn't allow myself to go back there again.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I always tell people that you have to find your hard no. Like, what are your absolutely not? We are not moving forward. Stop. Like, let me go retreat. And like, you need to find your hard no's. It's so important. And when you are on that journey to self discovery and that journey to healing and wholeness, that's something that I highly encourage you to think about. What are some hard no's for you?
All right, so put them in the comments, you guys. What are your hard no's? And I mean, if you haven't thought about what your hard no's are, think about some of them right now. Put them in the chat. Hard no is this: I will not let someone yell at me. I will not let someone, how do they speak to their parents or the waiter? How do they treat their children? I have a hard no. You can't disrespect me. I have a hard no. You can't, you know what I mean? And stick with those hard no's. Oftentimes we're so, after we've been hurt, we're willing to compromise. Well, they just don't know. It's a hard no. It's a hard no. Yes, find your hard no. Name calling. You guys said at the same time, name calling was a really, really big one. Yeah, because if they're willing to call their name, or all their exes were crazy, red flag, all their exes are not crazy. So that's another thing. Yeah.
Yes, I always tell people, like, when someone starts to tell you everybody in their life is wrong, crazy, or treating them badly, usually you probably want to think twice, ask some more questions, because there's only one common denominator there, you guys. Let's go back to elementary school math. Like, there's
And
only
what's the
one
common
common.
denominator?
Yes, and that's that person. So it's something that
That's
you guys
right.
should not ignore. And I know as women in particular, we tend to want to nurture and feel, empathy for people. And sometimes that is the very thing that causes us to miss those red flags. It's because we understand people so well, and we're so empathetic, and we want to just nurture them and make people feel good and take care of. It's built into our being as females. So I
Yeah.
encourage you guys to just listen with your ears, watch with your eyes, so that you're not missing things. And when you're ever in
Yeah.
doubt,
That's good.
ask questions. It's so important to ask questions.
Yeah, and expect an answer. I don't know, it went up so fast, the comments, but you said if you're in a relationship and you're not comfortable saying no, then it's not a safe relationship. You should be able to say, hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like that. Please don't do that again. Don't talk to me in that way. And if that person is not okay with those boundaries, that's not your people. That's why I will not be hit, not be disrespected. I will not be. I love that. I will not be ashamed in any form. And someone who loves you and cares about you, their goal is to never shame you, to never make you shame. This should always be a safe space for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about triggers in dating relationships. Sometimes I think it's very important. Like I remember when I met my husband, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. Don't do that. And if you can't, like, and it wasn't like a list of no's, but it's more like, as our relationship progressed, and if I saw something or if I said something up front, it was like, hey, this is what I don't like. I'm not comfortable with this, and that's okay. That
Mhm.
person should be able to respect those boundaries, because if another person that you're dating is healthy, they have boundaries too.
Yes, they do.
You know, and so that's always important. So let's talk about some triggers that may arise in dating.
Absolutely. For me, one of the first triggers that I overlooked was when I always would be defensive. So, my husband would say something and he would mean it, in love, but yet I felt like it was a personal attack. And the
Mm,
reason why this is a trigger is because, again, we're still working with this mindset of our abuser who, when they did say something, it literally was a personal attack. So a lot of times we find ourselves afraid and being very defensive. So you feel the need to over explain or defend yourself, or you just respond in aggression. That is one of the main triggers that I feel arises a lot once we get into these new relationships. And I want to say this, I want you to know that it's completely normal that you are responding that way. But I also want to tell you too that that is a sign that there is some work that needs to be done in you. Okay, we want you to start disassociating yourself with the girl you were when you were with that abuser, or the guy you were when you were with that abuser, so that you no longer see yourself as that person, and you no longer see your new partner as that person as well. So defensiveness, I would say definitely number one.
that's
And
good.
it's a common one.
That's
It's a
good.
common.
And
Hmm.
I think, yeah, defensiveness, because we're used to being on the defensive all the time. Well, always trying to protect ourselves, or making excuses for the things that we do or didn't get done in time or whatever. And it's like that person's like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. I even find myself to this day, Crystal, I'm like, because I like to do the laundry. My husband's like, I was doing laundry before I met you. I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing the laundry. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get to do it. And he's like, okay, I can do it. But I'm like, no, no, no. I still find myself like, but I wanted to do it. He's like, girl, chill out. But it's bit, you always want to kind of defend yourself and come to your own rescue, but you have to. And when you're in a healthy relationship, you don't have to do that anymore. I want to touch on, hey, Jennifer, hey, I love that you said that. It's so funny when you talked about saying no and getting the backlash from family and friends, and that's okay. And I was just talking to someone tonight, a survivor, and I was like, listen, this space right here, you see this space right here, that's your space. This is your healthy space. This is your boundary line. Anyone that cannot respect anything that goes on in this here space doesn't get rights to this space. That your mind, your body, anything that has to do with you, you protect that. And if they're flying monkeys, if family and friends can't respect it, Jennifer, okay, those aren't your people in this season in your life, and that's okay. Yes, major over explaining. So I just want to, can we just talk about this real quick for the people who say, like, I'm never going to date again. I never want to be hurt again. Um, can I just say, like, I want to just encourage you, Crystal and I want to encourage you to give yourself the opportunity to love again. It has been one of the best gifts that I've ever given myself. I remember praying to God. I said, Lord, please do not let me leave this earth without having experienced real love. What I experienced for all those years, that just wasn't it. Used to go to sleep afraid of this and afraid of that, terrified of just it being in my own skin. You know, and I tell my husband, I'm like, baby, thank you for letting me be me. He's like, all right, love you. And I'm like, what is she talking about? But it's one of those gifts that you get when you're with your person. So it's been one of the biggest gifts. I want to just divert real quick. So I got remarried in 2016, and we met online. Hey, secret out. I don't even know how to tell people this, but that's what, we met online, and I was open to it because I wasn't meeting Joe Schmo down the block. I was like, what is going on? He wasn't down the block, Crystal. He wasn't. And so we met online, and we got married, and we have a daughter now who's almost 3. And the love that I have now is just like the most beautiful gift. It is the easiest gift I've ever had. It's the most beautiful gift. Don't get me wrong. There's challenges because I'm still Lisa, right? And he's still him. But it's been one of the best gifts that I gave myself the opportunity to love again. I gave my children the gift of seeing a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship. When we hug and kiss, they're like, ugh. I'm like, yes. Because they lived in a household where they saw mom going through walls. They saw mom being hit and attacked. And so I've been given the gift to show them, what real love looks like.
Yes, that's so important. And like you said, you just want to encourage people to, not to give up on it. I truly believe that, first we have to start loving ourselves, because we are the best givers of love to ourselves, and we are also the ones that teach other people how to love us. There's this saying that we are what we attract. So when you are your best version of yourself, loving on yourself to its best and fullest capacity, you have no other option but to attract someone who is going to love you 10 times over. Because again, when you're giving yourself that kind of love and you're holding yourself to these kinds of standards, there's no way that you can, attract Joe Smo down the block. You just can't. And you just can't. You're gonna
what's going on in here is different.
Yes, because actually it's going to scare people off who are not on the same level as you. That's why it's so important to do that self-work first, so that you don't have to worry about attracting people who are not equally yoked with you. It is so important. So important.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. Someone asked me the question, like, how do I stop over explaining? So no is an entire sentence. Like, no can have a period at the end. And you said so much. And I still struggle with that to this day. Like, well, I kind of want them to know why. The fact is, my answer is no. I'm not comfortable going. I don't want to be there, whatever. The answer is no. And I challenge you to just say, nope. And just sit in there and see what happens, and just be comfortable with that, because that's your no, that's your space. So much of us as trauma, those who've experienced trauma, we've always overcompensated. We've always gone above and beyond. We've always said yes to things that we did not want to do. We've been forced to do things we didn't want to do. So guess what? This is my sacred space. This is me. It's a no. It's a no for me. And another question the same person asked was knowing when we're healed. And I kind of like to describe it like this. It's not the best, explanation, but so if you have a cut, you cut yourself and you're bleeding, you're like, oh my goodness, okay, well, what do? They put a cast or they put a band-aid, it stops bleeding, and eventually you touch it still hurts, Crystal, but eventually we all have scars on our bodies that you can see the scar, but the pain is not there anymore. It doesn't feel the same. Like, I can talk about my story 1,000,000 times and not shed a tear, not because it didn't impact or traumatize my life, because it did incredibly. It forced me to be who I am today. But at the same time, I've experienced the abuse. I've seen the trauma, the financial, the physical abuse. I've endured it. But when I touch that scar, it doesn't feel the same. It's just, I see it, but it doesn't feel the same. And I think that's part of knowing. I mean, when does a doctor take it off? When does the Band-Aid come off? When you believe that it's healed, And so give yourself, put yourself in a cast, put yourself in a Band-Aid. And I know that's not the best analogy, but you get my point. Give yourself the time to heal, the cocoon to do the work before you expose yourself or to the elements of other people in other relationships. So
yes. And I want to add to that.
I love y'all like that. I think y'all
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I want to add to that. The first question was, how do you stop over-explaining? So first of all, I want to tell you that a lot of times when we're over-explaining,
you're free.
I can you see me? Okay. Okay,
Yes,
good.
now I can.
Because you were frozen for a minute. So I'm frozen too. Okay, so when I was with my ex, if I did not answer his phone calls or respond to his text message fast enough, I had to come up with this long, drawn out story of to why I didn't get to the phone fast enough or whatever. So when I came into my relationship with my now husband, I took those same characteristics, but I want you to know that my husband didn't. He knows that I'm busy. He's very rational and realistic. So it was again deprogramming myself from a lot of that behavior that really was not healthy for me because we're not going to get to the phone all the time. We're not going to always have our phones in our hands. Well, maybe we will, but we might be busy and we still won't get to their text or their call right away. So I want you to know, like when you're over explaining, it's usually triggered because of something that you have
Hmm.
endured in your past, and it's actually showing you that that is an area that you need to heal and
Healing.
overcome.
Absolutely.
So that's one
That.
thing I want to say. And then you said, how do you know when you're healed? And like Lisa very well explained, is you just don't feel the same way you did. It doesn't hurt as bad. You're not crying about it every time you think of it or every time you have to talk about it, right? And also, I want to tell you because if you guys are popping in and out, Lisa said in the beginning of this live that healing is continuous, and I totally agree with that. This journey is always going to be continuous. But even though you are healed, there may be times that you're healed, but you're not whole yet. So it is so important that you protect that space and protect the energy around you because just because you're not you're whole, which means you'll still have triggers, you'll still have things that you have to work out as they arise. But that does not mean you're not healed. You just are not whole. So it's important to set those boundaries and do the work as those things pop up because it's not there's no rule book to it. Life happens and then you figure out what it is that you still need to work on. But again, a healing journey is continuous. Yes, you may not be bleeding from the physical wounds. You may not be crying because of the memories and all of that. But do know that it'll always be a journey that you may find new things that arise that you just work through. And that doesn't mean that you're not healed. Again, it just means that you're not
Love that.
whole. It's continuous. So yeah.
I love that. And don't expect all my jump at the sound of that. I love Tara when you talked about you feel calm and not anxious in normal situations, and that's how she knows that she's healing. And again, it is a process. It's that goes on and on. I love it, Jessica, letting someone in. Yeah, I mean, be a part of your life. They're going to respect. Oh no, you're frozen.
Oh,
Are we
am
frozen,
I?
y'all? Somebody tell us in the comments if we're frozen. It kind of was going
Okay.
in and out, but they'll tell us. But it's really important that you just communicate or in a relationship with someone who's willing to say, I'll take my time. I'm not in a rush. You know, one of the biggest red flags of a domestic abuse relationship is a love bombing immediately. Let's get married tomorrow. Or we just need to be together right now. I don't want you to be with anybody else. You found the one. Time out. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important trait to remember. It's okay. Okay, we were frozen. Okay. To take your time and find love again.
Yes.
What are some steps? Okay, it's in and out of it. It's in and out of it. So let me see. Are we back? Are we back? Move, Crystal. Go like this. Let's see if. Yeah, she's
Can you
frozen.
see me?
Okay, yeah, it's a little delayed. That's
Okay.
okay. Okay, so what are some steps that I can take to discover how to love myself again after years of being in an abusive relationship? Uh, okay, you go. You want to answer that?
Sure, sure. Okay. So, if you're fresh out of your relationship, the first thing and the easiest thing that I do recommend is to start journaling. You need a place to let your feelings and your thoughts escape. It's so important to just
Mhm.
write it out. And I like to tell people that when you are journaling, you start to connect your thoughts with reality because you also have something to go back to and read outside of that feeling. So sometimes we feel things and we become consumed by those feelings, the sadness, the hurt, the abandonment, when they discard us and things like that. But when we start to write that out and then we go back and read it tomorrow, we're reading it from a fresh lens, a new perspective. So it really does help us to, again, let those thoughts and those feelings have an escape and then also help you to connect those thoughts and feelings with reality. So that's
Mm,
definitely something that
that's
you can
good.
do. You should
That's
seek
good.
out therapy if that's within your means. Get a coach if you can. There's all these things. Join some life groups, some groups that have people who are familiar with what you're going through. But I want to caution you with the groups, because sometimes you get into groups that are just talking negatively, or people who just want to know how they can survive in a situation. So you want to get into the right group, the group that's going to actually give you tips and tricks on how you can progress in your healing journey. So those are some things that I highly recommend. And then building up your support system. When you're in abusive relationships, the first thing that happens is you become isolated from everybody else. So it's important that you go ahead and reconnect and rebuild those relationships, and then change up your everyday routine. You cannot keep doing the same things you were doing with your abuser, because you will constantly be reminded of them. So if you used to go for coffee at McDonald's every morning, then you need to go to coffee at Starbucks now, because you just can't keep revisiting.
You're creating new memories, creating new actions every day, like you said. So a couple things, I'm all about affirmations. I am powerful. I'm important, affirmations. But the truth is, we don't want to just slap affirmations on something that hurts, right? We want to heal. We want to acknowledge what we feel, the pain that it caused, the repercussions of it. This hurts. After we've healed from it, we want to counteract with the affirmations and the truth. But we want to actually say, "Ow, that really hurt. I didn't like that." And I'm a huge advocate for healing. Shameless plug. You guys grab my journal. It's called My Healing Journey. And I wrote it because, listen, journaling for me was therapeutic. I remember looking back like, he did that. I was dumbfounded sometimes. And after he said he was sorry, I went back in a relationship and I saw the things that I endured. I would rip out the pages, throw them away, because I was actually able to look on paper and see what I endured. And then I still went back. And then as I got out of the relationship and I started to look and say, oh my goodness, look how far I've come. Look how far I've come. Look how I used to feel about that. So journaling, you guys, is absolutely therapeutic. And create new. I remember, we know as narcissists and abusers, every holiday is about them. Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays. We're frozen. Are we frozen? No, it's everything. It keeps going in and out. Everything is about them. So start creating new habits, So I decided when it was my birthday, I was going to do anything I wanted for my birthday. It was going to be my birthday, because he would ruin every birthday. So the first birthday away from him, I had a party. And every birthday after that, I've gone on a cruise or I've done something for myself. I made the decision for myself that I was not going to allow the memories of that relationship to control how I move forward in life. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. That is so important. Just putting yourself back in the focal point, making yourself the center of attention again, because it is important to feel good and feel worthy. And those are all things that help build you up. So I definitely love that you were just having those parties and going on those cruises, reminding yourself that, you the bomb, girl. You the bomb.
Yeah. I even talk about, like, this is what I want for my birthday, y'all. This is what I want to do. And guys, you got to understand, you're looking at two women who we didn't wake up like this. This was a journey, and we want you to get to that place where you trust yourself. Cindy, I love what you said. I love that. Not a reaction, but a response. It's not about taking it from how you treat me to what I'm willing to accept. I love that. And that's good. If you're totally not open to a relationship, that's fine. But that first relationship has to be with you. It has to be a joy that you wake up in the morning and you love yourself. There's no way that you can look at someone and expect that love if you don't have that love to give yourself. Yes. And so that's really, really important as well. Okay, so we only have like 5 more minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I know we didn't even touch on half the stuff, but if you guys have any specific questions you want to touch on with me and Crystal, please let us know. I remember when I got married, Crystal, my advocate, I had a domestic violence advocate from the moment I left my relationship. She's our clinical director now on Stand Up Survivor, and she was at my wedding. She cried more than I did. And, and she tells me, she said, because I watched you. I watched you walk into my domestic violence class and say, God is going to heal my marriage, because you believed that and you wanted that. It just didn't work out that way. And you turned your life around. You went back to school. You've raised your children. You've gotten remarried. I saw you grow from brokenness to healed. What's the name of your book? What's the name of your book?
Over brokenness. And it is exactly what you just said. Setting healthy boundaries over being broken. It's just choosing to heal, choosing to take the high road and put you first. That's really what it's all about.
And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with you being first. It's about
Mm-hmm.
time, because in your relationship, you weren't first, you were absolutely last. And it's time
Mm-hmm.
for you to take that power back and love yourself, and give yourself the chance to maybe dream again. And I always tell myself, I could pinch myself. I get to live my dream every day.
Yeah.
And Crystal, I watch you in the group talking about love after trauma abuse. I saw you on vacation with your husband and your son, just living your best life, And I know that you wrote a book, so I just want to put it up here real quick. This is her information, you guys. BoundariesOverBrokenness.com. If you want to grab a copy of her book, it's on her page, Boundaries Over Brokenness. She also has a group, and it's called Love After Trauma Abuse. Let me tell y'all, she gets some good stuff in there. If you're interested in Love After Trauma Abuse, get in there. I mean, she gives all that she has to the ladies in this group. So you definitely want to jump in there.
Yes. I'd love to have you guys.
So, okay, so we got a couple questions. How long did we stay single until I met Mr. Right? Crystal, I dated a lot.
Yeah, for me, I was dating kind of, but ultimately it was 2 years before I got remarried or married.
Yeah, and I dated because I kind of wanted to see what was out there. Like, are all men like this, or what is it that I like? What don't I like? I wanted to kind of figure that out, but my boundaries were mine. So whatever it was, you were coming into my space. And if you didn't fit that, I was okay. I moved on. But I got married 4 years ago. And so I was single for 6 years. I raised my children. They were 2 and 3. At that time, they're now 12 and 13. And so I was single for a while, but and it was hard at first. I remember I didn't like the silence. I was afraid of everything. And slowly I learned to live on my own with my children. It's okay if it was just us. I learned to change a light bulb, change my car, whatever I had to do by myself. And then when a man came into the picture, it was like he was already coming into a whole scene. He wasn't coming into broken pieces. One of our next questions, how to get an advocate that cares about me, like your advocate cared about you. I mean, maybe connect with your local domestic violence shelter. We have advocates here at Stand Up Survivor. Crystal is an advocate. All advocates are not as amazing as mine, I have to tell you. But once you find one that connects with you and is willing to walk the journey with you, stick with them.
Yes.
What else, Crystal? What you got for them?
Yes. I think this was a great discussion, you guys. I do appreciate you guys tuning in with us. I love this, Lisa. I hope we can come back and finish the rest of
Yes, I know. Y'all, we have like pages left. Someone asked about co-parenting with an abuser. I'd like to say I would urge you to look up parallel parenting. It depends on the type of abuser that they were. Were they narcissistic? Were they not? And co-parenting can be extremely difficult. Boundaries are really important to set when dealing with them. They don't need to be coming in your house and putting the kids to bed or telling you what to do. You have conversations that are just about the children, and that's it. You set the boundaries. They do not get permission to control anything about you anymore. Right? So if we're not talking about Johnny and Maria, then we're not talking anything at all. So
absolutely. Let's see. And document
anything else you want to share?
Important.
That's
document good. Everything. Doesn't matter. Good, bad, indifferent. Document it.
Yeah. And take your time. Someone said, love yourself, build a relationship with you, go on vacations and go to the beach, go by the water. Just find the thing that brings you joy, that brings went black. Are we back? We went black. We went black.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay.
Find that thing that you love. And a lot of times you'll meet the love of your life while you're doing the thing that you love. We're not going on the road in an effort to find them. We're living our life and loving ourselves and kind of find them along the journey. What do you think, Crystal?
I definitely agree with that, because it's important that you rediscover your passions, because that is the thing that's going to bring you joy and bring you peace. And also it helps you to learn who you are. Because when we go through these relationships of abuse, we lose ourselves, we lose our identity. So it's so important that we rediscover who we are by doing the things that we've always loved and trying new things. That's important as well, because again, you've been locked into this situation for so long that you just lose sight of all the things that actually make you happy because you've been spending this all this time serving this other person, making sure that they're happy, walking on eggshells. So just take that time to build you up, to
Find you
travel.
and find a thing that makes you happy.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, Crystal, I
Absolutely.
want to tell you, you are so worthy. You are worthy of anything, everything beautiful in this life, but you are worthy of all the good things that you so desire. So don't allow your ex to rob another second of your self-worth, of the way that you feel or think about yourself. You take this time, you say, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy of love. I'm worthy of happiness. I'm worthy of a new relationship of I so desire. I'm worthy of everything good that this world has to offer me. And so we want you to walk with your head held high, and know that you are worthy today. So I'm so
Yeah.
glad you enjoyed our session. I try to go live every Tuesday. But this month we're focusing on Now What November. We want you to know that there's life after. What do you do after this? So, Crystal, thank you so much. That's right. You are worthy. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we didn't even get to all our points, but I love your story. I'm excited about your book. You guys can go grab her book from her page, Facebook page, Boundaries Over Brokenness. And we're going live tomorrow. And so you'll see a post about that in a little bit. But we will see you guys next time. Hang in there, Crystal. Don't go in. Okay. All right. We'll
Okay.
see you guys later.
Bye.